Diddy's case cannot be seen in isolation of other cases of prolific predators in Hollywood. And here is another case that was filed in October 2023, which is also when Cassie filed her lawsuit against Diddy. Now, Julia Ormond filed her lawsuit against Harvey Weinstein and CAA and Disney as enablers, right? So they are middlemen in these transactions. What we saw was wall-to-wall coverage during the Me Too movement of all Weinstein survivors, and it was just such a big movement, wasn't it? Or was it? As this article notes, it is rare for business partners that profited from Weinstein's work to be named as defendants for supposedly enabling his behavior. But that's the casting couch. It's the whole network. He not only was a perpetrator, he facilitated it for others, as well as others facilitating it for him. So the Weinstein story broke in 2017, and here we are 6-7 years later, and she only is coming forward because she's like, I don't think anything's changed. What about all these enablers? Like, how many people helped him have that many victims? And was he being fed victims by people? Was he passing off victims to people? Yeah, it's pretty clear he was. Who were those people that were helping him? Not even just enablers, but fellow predators. That brings us to this case that was just filed last month. And it is James Dolan of Madison Square Garden, who was alleged to have been trafficking a woman and at one point was trying to pass her off to Weinstein. Now, Dolan had a little rock band. He's a billionaire, so it's very much a vanity project. And he would open up for the band The Eagles. And so her lawsuit is alleging that Irving Azoff's company, who has been with the Eagles since the 70s, helped facilitate that trafficking scenario. And the likelihood that more survivors will come forward about James Dolan is high. And as I've said, we can get lost in the traumatic details of victims' experiences. And we need to zoom out and say, hey, we don't need secretive societies to explain these clusters of predators. She even included a picture of Dolan, Irving, and Harvey in her lawsuit. And when I say Irving Azoff is a crime boss of the music industry, I'm not even exaggerating. Him and Weinstein did a lot of soundtracks together in the 90s. Harvey started out in the music industry as a promoter in Buffalo, New York, okay? Old school ties, legacy wealth, Game of Thrones, okay? Dolan's dad had Cablevision, which became HBO. They owned the Knicks. Old money, owned Madison Square Garden. And so even with him, there's allegations that he was spying on players and journalists that were coming into Madison Square Garden, like people were reading their text messages. Does he have Pegasus? I don't know, but that's weird, right? We get this, okay, Diddy camera-fied everywhere he went. I mean, there's just so many parallels. Remember how I said Dolan's band opened up for the Eagles, and the head of the Eagles is Don Henley. And last week he was testifying in a court case because someone had stolen some of his old lyrics, handwritten lyrics, right? And even in this trial, it was brought up that in 1980 he was found with underage girls, one of which was having a drug overdose. That 1980 incident was infamous, but it only received a passing mention during the recent Me Too movement. And when there was such a comeuppance across the industry, Why was Don Henley spared that? And it likely just goes to his connection to Irving Azoff. That's all it takes, right? And so when we're talking about how some people get scrutiny and others didn't, is it easier to take someone like Black, like R. Kelly and Cosby down than Hugh Hefner and Harvey Weinstein? Yeah, there's the dynamics there of who the perpetrator is, relative privilege, but I'm telling you, they were all part of the same power network, right? There's reports that Irving was threatening journalists in 1980s if they even wrote about Don Henley's arrest. Don Henley of the Eagles, they wrote the song Hotel California, and he is such a unknown publicly predator that this happened. Unironically, one of Epstein's victims likened their experience to Hotel California. You could check into the Epstein-Maxwell dungeon of sexual hell, but you could never leave. I don't think they would make that reference if they actually attributed it as a lyric from a predator. Okay. At the end of the day, how much do we need Epstein's list? Okay, here's a little map of one of the most expensive enclaves in Hollywood, Holmby Hills. Here's Diddy's house right here. Here's Bridges to Recovery, where Britney was held against her will and forcibly medicated. Next door is Irving Azoff's house. And way down there, we got the Playboy Mansion. Same street, okay? We got people under surveillance, being preyed upon, and it's all a little circuit, okay? So just let it click, and let's support all the survivors that come out and really dismantle these criminals, because we don't need the Epstein list. We can build our own.